Stefano, welcome to Wellness Wednesday, but slightly different. We're in the talks. We were talking with Rio, and we were thinking of the new approach and how we can do the Wellness Wednesdays from now, and how we can switch them up to be used as a tool, I'd say, so we can kōrero and bring people on to uncover tools that they have, tools that they use, so that we can, as a community, use those tools and put them in our kite and be able to have them for ourselves, and so that we can be better and our wellness can be higher vibration, higher and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, it was really cool. We came up with the idea of the foundation, where we're going to be doing bi-weekly podcasts. So every 2 weeks, we'll be jumping on in this setting, dropping some gems, kōreroing with awesome people, just bringing forth a whole new element and taste to Wellness Wednesday. So thank you very much for tuning in, coming along tonight, fam. It's honestly awesome. Super excited for this new approach and super excited to see what this is going to bring, and how much value we can add to the community in EB. So
awesome. Nice.
Yeah, that's us. I guess that's our first little intro. But Brother Rio, is there anything you'd like to add on to, bro?
Nah, not really, bro. Just a massive shout out to you guys, to both you, Jack and Morgan, for jumping in here and like you say, bro, adding value to people's kite, adding tools to people's kite to be able to utilize and whatever it is they're trying to do with their lives, whatever it is they're trying to pursue. So hats off to you fellas. I'm super excited about this new approach as well. And also having sort of like the podcast style and the video content to chop into, smaller bite-sized gems, I guess, that we can share both on the Up2Podcast page and the Eager Beaver social media, socials as well. That's huge, bro. And so I'm super excited about tonight, bro. I could talk about mindset stuff all day long. So stoked, bro. Stoked to be here.
Thanks, Alex. This is going to be on. Is there anything you want to say, Bob?
Oh, no, I'm just happy to be here. I'm just so I think this is a really cool approach to Wellness Wednesdays. Jack and I have been speaking all day today about our topic for today, which is about fear and self-doubt. And we're kind of like reflecting and just coming up with all these ideas. And I think it's a really good topic to kick us off with because it can relate to so many different areas of life. I'm super excited to get into this topic. I know it's a bit of a heavy one, but it's something that we definitely need to speak about. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to the feeling of having fear and having self-doubt. Just really important to get into this kōrero today. Keen to be here.
I got to say one thing just before we kick off. Just got to give a quick mihi to Morgan for being our tech support in the first 10 minutes before. We were having a few issues with tech, and then Rio and I were going, we could try this. And then Morgan's like, why you do that? And it's like, boom.
Should have said that at the start.
There it is.
I'd like to see you sweat it.
Yeah.
So just had to give mihi up to you, Bob, for that.
Thank you.
Sussing tech support. Let's go.
Good.
Cool. Well, yeah, self-doubt and fear. Definitely something that I think everyone goes through in different ways, different forms, at different times. Definitely something that I've suffered from, or even like from a big scale perspective, maybe time in my life, and even to a smaller scale, little daily fears or daily self-doubts that people can have. So really excited to kickstart off this kōrero with you, bro. But shall we start it with I don't know, I was thinking we could start it with speaking to a time where maybe we really overcame a massive part of our life that self-doubt and fear took quite a lot of control over for a period of time, and how we got out of that. So we could take that approach at the start maybe, and just see where the kōrero guides us from there, bro.
Yeah, cool, bro. Starting with me.
Yo.
Yeah. Oh man, like you said, like self-doubt and fear it's huge, and like you said as well, it's a daily thing. And I actually think fear is not a bad thing. I think fear is our mind's natural way of making sure that we assess the situation before we go and do anything. Because if we didn't have fear, we'd be reckless. Yeah,
totally.
We'd walk into burning buildings and not even assess what's happening. So I think fear is a great tool, but it needs to be put in its place. So I think if we can see it as when we feel that fear, it's a time for us to just assess the situation, you know, assess the risks of whatever it is that we're trying to achieve. Whereas self-doubt, I hate's a strong word, but I hate it, because it's crippling. It's honestly crippling, and it will paralyze our potential. So yeah, fear's like that measure to assess a situation. And then self-doubt, I feel like it's kind of like a predetermined that you already can't do it. You've just decided, it's that voice that's already decided for you that you can't do it. And I really feel like self-doubt is really the one that's hard to overcome, because it's just that feedback loop that's going round and round and round in your head. Whereas fear is kind of like that. It's okay to be scared. And you know, that's fine. And I think what you're asking about, bro, a situation of overcoming fear and self-doubt would be the Eager Beaver NFT project. Just building that, you know. I had a ton of fear, and I had self-doubt as well. But I think the more things that you do that are scary, the faster you get at assessing situations, the more sort of self-belief you have. And I think that's kind of the antidote to self-doubt is obviously self-belief. So yeah, bro, I would say to our whānau out there that if you can smash self-doubt in little tiny things every single day, all of those small times just throughout your day that you're being self-doubt, and you're shutting that down and you're pushing those thoughts down, no, I can do this. I do believe in me. I do back myself. The more you do that, you can jump off bigger cliffs, higher heights, do bigger things. So yeah, bro, I guess that's a time that I can think of, you know, lately that I've overcome fear and self-doubt is with this project. And it's really down to what I was talking about, bro, getting used to taking risks, assessing risks, and leaping and backing myself, and also surrounding myself with people who believe in themselves and me as well. So having a collective group of people, you know, and there's that saying, show me your 5 best friends and I'll show you your future, kind of thing.
Yeah, bro, hard. And I was actually gonna say, I saw today on Instagram, it actually may have been the brother Rans, but someone shared a story, and it was like, hang around 5 millionaires, you'll be the 6th. Hang around 5 actors, you'll be the 6th, kind of thing. And I guess that speaks to that too, bro? Like the people you hang around with are who you will turn out, you know, to be. And when you're surrounded by that type of energy, I mean, I'm hard out believer in that, you know, energy transfer. And, you know, you'll hang around certain people that aren't good for your energy. They may be at times, but certain times as well, nah. But I think that kōrero fully taps into the idea of surrounding yourself with people that serve you and can add value to your life, not people that'll drain it, you know. And those people come and go. And I feel like fear is one of those things as well, where where fear can kind of come and go in moments, but with self-doubt, bro, that sucker's locked in, you know, that voice is locked in. And it would be mean if we had a voice that, say you wake up in the morning and it's like, yeah, you're going to go to the gym. And then we're like, oh, yo, yeah, I am, yo, you know, like, mean, but that self-doubt voice, and that voice that is that criticizer, like you said, is crippling as, but one really cool thing that I saw online was talking about self-doubt, and it was the bro, Jay Shetty, bro. He was talking about self-doubt, and there was this really, really cool sort of way he described it, and how you can, one aspect on how to manage that resonated with me really quite a lot. And it was that, you know, you go to your boss, for example, right? And you're asking for like a pay rise or something, and you constantly get told no. And then maybe the next time you kind of prep and go, okay, he or she will probably say no. So I might prep myself for what I'm going to say if there is a no, rather than if you didn't prep, you'd be a bit lost and like, oh, shucks, you know? So what Jay was saying is that we can have preset scripts to kōrero with that self-doubt voice, because he put it beautifully, bro. He's like, you know that you want to say, get up and go to the gym at 7 a.m, like you do, but your self-doubt voice doesn't. It's not you, because you were like, yo, 6 a.m. sharp, we're going to go to the gym, but you get up at 5:50 and that voice is going, Jack, bro, that pillow looks pretty nice and warm, mate.
Yeah, handy, bro.
You know what I mean? And I was like,
Yeah.
fuck, that actually makes so much sense. Having a pre-done sort of dialogue with yourself that you can have, and then it will just be another element of prep or another element of, it might be a tool that can help break down that barrier that's between you and that voice in that morning moment.
Yeah, bro, because I think a lot of the time, mate, what we do is like what you're talking about, bro, and I guess what I was talking about with the fear thing is that the more we try and shun something or pretend that it's not there, like the fear and the self-doubt, that's when it gets it. I feel like that's where it gets its power from. So just acknowledging that it's there, and like you're saying, like acknowledging that it's going to come, but being prepared for that with that dialogue that you're talking about, bro. And the same thing is fear, like realizing, yes, if I want to achieve this massive goal or I want to attain this certain thing into my life, there's going to be elements of risk, elements of hard work, and it's okay to feel scared. But sometimes I think we stop even at the fear part before the self-doubt can even start. We just stop at too hard or like, too scary.
Hard out.
Yeah. But what do you guys think about why do you think we all know that self-doubt is just like the kind of devil on the shoulder, right? The bad sort of voice? Like we all know that, but we can't seem to move past it. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
I think it's really important to know the difference between like what you're speaking, the fear that keeps you safe from harm. Totally okay, like we know that that's a good fear to have, like you were saying. And another analogy we used earlier was talking about different like parts of the comfort zone and stuff. I think that comes into it quite a bit. And we've actually got a really cool tool that we've learnt in our mahi to be able to share as well. And that's sort of when you're in the comfort zone, everyone knows what the comfort zone is. They're super happy there. It's a really comfortable place. They're like, yep, this is lit. But they're probably striving, going, oh, I wish I could push myself a little bit more. Or they're comparing themselves to others and seeing how others are pushing themselves more. And so if you push yourself a little more out of the comfort zone, that's when you get into the growth zone. And the growth zone's where all the magic happens. That's a fun spot. You're like pushing yourself enough that you're not too far out of your comfort zone or growth zone, but you're getting somewhere. You're slowly making, your way up. And then outside of that zone is the danger zone. And that's a no-go. So the way that the analogy that we like to use is, say you know how to swim, and you're in the comfort zone and you're kind of wading around in the waters and stuff, and you're like, you'll be safe there, you're sweet. And then you're like, okay, I might push myself a little bit further, I can swim. So I'm going to go out a little bit further into the deep kind of waters and swim around there, and you're still fine. But danger zone would be if you didn't know how to swim, and you're going into the water and you push yourself too far. You haven't learned the skills beforehand in order to be able to do the thing. And so you're just completely out of your depth, and, something really bad could happen from that. And obviously not everything, you're not going to result in drowning every time you do something out of your danger zone or anything. And you can come back in for sure, but it's about being aware of those boundaries. So I think it's really important to kind of differentiate between all of them. I mean, you've got the fear that saves you from being in a really dangerous position, but you've got the fear that also gets in the way of your goals. I like to consider fear and self-doubt sort of like the roadblocks to success. Like they're just stopping you. You have to kind of go on that detour and go like another 20 minutes until you get to the place that you're wanting to go. But in order to immobilize fear and self-doubt, you've got to refuse to allow that voice of fear and self-doubt to be louder than the voice of possibility. And that's done by creating a positive mindset. It's changing up the way that you think, what you believe, the words that you say to yourself, and the thoughts that kind of permeate your mind. And I think it's really important. Like everyone does know that self-doubt, that's not the voice you want to hear. But if you make your other voice louder, that's going to hush down. You're like turning down that mic, turning up the mic of self-belief, and reminding yourself that you are enough. Realize that failures and feedback are actually really positive things. That can help us to grow our confidence, because once we know kind of what we're doing wrong, we can change that. That's within our control. And then once we change that, that's when the confidence will start to grow. That's my sort of idea of breaking up the two, and making it really clear being able to recognize, this is the bad voice on my shoulder. we're going to hush you down. Let's focus on the good stuff. And then that voice will quieten.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you said the voice of possibility. You know, that needs to be the loud voice, the voice of possibility. Because, man, when we stop dreaming, we're done. You know, the minute we stop thinking that there's better out there, well, we might as well just lie down.
Totally. Just get on the beanie.
Yeah. So no, I love that, the voice of possibility. I was gonna say too that I feel like if we could switch our fear and if we can make the main fear, maybe it's because we're quite like short-term kind of beings, like we really, really struggle to see 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. But if we could make our biggest fear that we're on our deathbeds and we didn't do the things, you know, that we wanted to do, like that scares the shit out of me.
Hard out, bro.
I get that.
Like,
hard.
You know, I don't want to be lying there looking at my daughter who will be 50 then, you know, and I'm 80, and I didn't do, you know, I'm going to the grave still with stuff inside me.
Hard. And I know Gary Vee speaks to that. I've seen that in some of his videos, and he's like, you know, if you want, you know, to get a sense of drive, or you want a sense of purpose to do anything, then go to a rest home and hang out with those people in the rest home for the day and ask them, what are your regrets in life? Like, what did you not achieve that now looking back in hindsight, you're like, I should have done that, or I should not have let that person's comment completely throw me off my waka, you know? And I thought, man, that's so true, because he said that he's done it. And he's like, you know, you go into these rest homes and they've got so many things that now, because they're that age and they can look, you know, with hindsight, they were just telling younger people like, bro, go and get out there, you know, like try your best to not let people's judgments affect you and make you like stop you from doing, you know, what you're wanting to do. But I think what we're talking about here, and it kind of came to me when you were speaking, Morgan, and with my belief on what I think, you know, is holding us back as a society with letting that self-doubt on your shoulder take over, is maybe a lack of knowledge of self. Because I was thinking, you know, if you know yourself really well and you're super in touch, and I think that's actually one thing on a societal level, which is getting normalized, but at the moment, I don't think it's that normalized. And maybe what if we normalize the ability to knowing self? So probably introducing less judgment in the world, you know, don't judge people so quickly, because that's going to totally set off that'll trigger self-doubt and things like that. And so maybe if we as a society or as a community could be better and more conscious at knowing ourselves, also being in touch that others are on that journey too, then I think people could sit with themselves easier and conversate and have that kōrero with that self-doubt voice. Because I know that, you know, for me, say when I was like 17, that kind of kōrero would have been so out the gate, like, what are you on, bro? But also I wouldn't have been emotionally equipped to be able to do that. So if we as a society, community, a friend, you know, a mum or a dad, whatever it is, if we can help our people be able to get to that stage of knowing self in a place where it's comfortable for you to sit alone and really look inwards. You know, I genuinely, like, I'm getting goosebumps talking about this now. I genuinely reckon that would actually have a mean impact on people's self-doubt, people's drive, people's sense of confidence and things like that, you know. So
straight up, bro. And I you know, as a father now, I really, well, obviously I can only speak from a father's point of view, but like my dad, right, he's the man, awesome provider, always been there for us, like mahi'd up for us and made sure that we had everything we needed. But if we just had more chats around what you're talking about, bro, knowing self, you know, I've never really talked to my dad about who he is or who I am as a man and who he, you know, because it just, I think with that age, like my dad's 65, it's kind of like weird for them. Or
yeah,
my dad gets a bit uncomfortable, you know, he doesn't even like to hug us for too long, you know, he gets a bit like
yeah,
just, you know, that old school manly sort of way of being, Kiwi way of being. And I think you're right, bro, knowing self, and that's something that I definitely want to instill into my daughter is having those kinds of chats around who she is and how powerful she is and what she has within her, and how much I believe in her so that she can believe in herself. And yeah, bro, I totally agree with what you're talking about there, bro, about knowing self. We need to get, I don't want to say we need to get better at it, but we would be so much better for it.
Yeah, hard out. And I know for me, like in terms of a judgment aspect, which I think judgment could be a real trigger point. You get judged instantly, you're going, oh fuck, what did I do? Or what did I say? Oh, you start doubting what had happened. And I think judgment, if we can try our best to refrain from judging as much or as easily, or maybe, I don't even know, but when we all judge in our mind, it's whether or not we show it, right? Maybe we could stop the facial expression of like, oh, or I don't know, maybe just, but just being a bit more conscious of that, because I think for some people, they could handle it. But for that person, you don't know, it might be that last eyebrow raise that they need to go, you know what, stuff it, not doing it. And they might be one footstep away from just cracking it, or thinking like that, or
one thing that I've, on top of that, bro, that I've really kind of observed probably in my, like in the last 3 or 4 years, or like the later years of my life, now that I'm in my 30s, is that a lot of it really, or I think is really in here. Like if you think about how much we are doing internal thinking, right, all day, every day, people probably aren't even thinking the things that they probably don't even care what we're doing, or have time to care about what we're doing, or to, we think, oh, but what will they think if I start vlogging, and pull my camera out in the city while everyone's watching? We think everyone thinks we're a dickhead or whatever. Yeah. But everyone's got so much going on up here.
Absolutely.
Like I know that I'm not really bothered by what anyone's doing, but I too have had those feelings of thinking, like we think that the world evolves around us, the entire world.
Yeah.
And that everyone is watching what we're doing, and people do judge and people do say harsh things, but I think in general we all got so much stuff going on.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. And I see that, I'm just thinking about in terms of social media as well. Like I've seen quite a few people be fearful of putting stuff out on social media, like even like a post. They're like, do I post this? Do I not? Like, I'm so scared people are going to judge me. I'm like, bro, someone's going to scroll through for like a second, and they could be like, ugh, and then just keep going, and then they've forgotten about it and they're on to the next thing. It's like you're so right in saying that we do think the world revolves around us, and that everyone's so intrigued in what we're doing and what we're not doing and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, to be fair, I mean, I know I've got a lot more stuff to think about than somebody's like post on Instagram sort of thing. It's about challenging those, and seeing fear as like motivation. Like I'm sure a lot of people's fear is the same as what you were saying, like a fear of what am I going to regret when I'm old sort of thing. But it's like, okay, instead of making that your fear of what am I going to regret, just do something about it. Use that as your motivation, and stop seeing it as a negative fear. See it as a positive motivation. And even that in itself, that's changing your mindset there. I'm also a big believer in self-talk, and I know I'm really critical on myself. We were talking before about self-doubt and fear, and we kind of reflected on when we first started podcasting, and man, it was the scariest time because, we've got all our mates and stuff watching us, and we're like starting off doing TikTok dances, and we're like, we're not done. Like, what are we up to? And it's just like, even the fear of, like doing a dance and it being Māori and us, doing a bit of kapa haka, but we've, I've never learnt that before. And then I get a whole lot of people on TikTok being like, your fingers are too far apart. And I'm like, sorry, I'm trying. But, I didn't let that stop me, even though that was really fearful. And I, can't take on the TikTok haters, user 247 rara who just made an account to my kapa haka skills. But if we had stopped then, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't be here chatting to you. We probably, we wouldn't have Wellness Wednesday. A whole bunch of opportunities that we've had from starting up to never would have had if we had stopped ourselves when we were really feeling it. And we were really feeling it. Like after every podcast, the first thing we'd do is, and we like to consider ourselves quite positive people, but the first thing we would do would be reflect on what we did wrong. And straight away I'd be like, oh no, I messed that up. Like we shouldn't have done that, rather than going, we just did a podcast, that's awesome. We had this conversation. It was great, but we're just so harsh on ourselves. And I think, like, for myself, I love to hear other people tell me that I'm doing well. And, I'd be the first person, if my mate was doing something, I'd be there to support. And I'd be like, yes, get it. Like, you're doing so great. Go Queen. Like, I'd be that sort of hype person.
Yeah.
And you need people around you to do that for you. Like, you need that sort of belief in order to kickstart the belief in yourself, I feel. So it's just, really important to surround yourself again with people that are actually hyping you up and are excited for you and, want you to grow, rather than the ones that are kind of judging, fearing, giving you that self-doubt, giving you that fear. So,
hard. And I think, like, do you think when we were doing like TikToks and stuff, because I was having a thought before, which kind of, I think, aligns with what you're saying, was there an element of like surrender to the fact that this was something that did create like a self-doubt? You kind of surrendered to just, I'm going to do it, surrendering to the fear. And then you kind of got to a point where it was like, wow, I actually realized how much that may have actually not affected me. Do you kind of get what I'm saying?
And it was a blessing in disguise. Like, I really believe it was, even with people commenting on my hands and stuff like that. And I've got really bendy hands as well, so I can't help but, like, my hands do, like, I can't see you right now, but you'll be shocked.
I can see that.
Party trick,
Bro, mean as knuckles, bro.
Yeah, knuckle bones.
Mean at knuckle
That's the only thing that's good.
Oh yeah.
Everyone in the baby community.
All the edges, eh?
Yeah.
Right. See, when you're listening in the clips, we'll
make
clip
sure
this
to zoom in. But having that feedback and having people be like, you're doing it wrong. I mean, they could have said it a bit nicer, but hey, that's right. But even them saying that built my confidence up, because now I know what to do. And then the next one, I did it better. And then people were like I had someone that I don't know, like, comment months later and be like, oh, you've made so much progress, like, rah, rah, rah. I was like, thanks, like, I've been practicing. And then I felt comfortable doing it. So I was like, oh, I'm not even fearful of this anymore. There's no self-doubt, because I know I've nailed my fingers in the kapa haka. And so, I think it can be a blessing in disguise, but I can understand how that's really hard to see in the moment. It's hard to know that there'll be a light at the sort of end when you're in it. So I think it's really important to actually sit in it. I'm a big fan of sitting in feelings rather than just trying to get rid of them straight away. Because I think if you try to get rid of them straight away, there's no processing there. You're not gonna learn anything from it. You're just gonna suppress it until next time. Just putting a band-aid over. But once you start going, okay, this is how I'm feeling. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling sad. Let's sit in it for a bit. And don't put too much pressure on yourself to get out of it either, because that takes a lot of energy to figure that out. It's like, just let yourself be safe for a bit, feel it, and then you do need to eventually move on from that when you're ready. But I'm a big believer in that. It's a big one for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I remember when I used to play when I was playing footy, like that that first sort of hit up that you do. Once you I feel like once you get that out of the way, you get smashed, you get pummeled into the ground, and then you kind of just get going after that.
Yeah,
I feel like life's kind of like that as well. Yeah, life can be like that, where our biggest fear is that first contact or that first bit of friction, whether that be bad feedback because your hands are too far apart, or or whatever that first hit is. But you take that first hit, and then you get better at taking hits. The cobwebs get blown out, and you can kind of just get into what you're trying to do. And I think if we are prepared for that, and if we just accept that it's not going to go, because I think a lot of the things that stop us from doing things is we want it to go perfectly.
And
that's why
perfect, bro. I want things to be like yes,
bro, that's it, man. And like, so we might, I don't know, you might want to start a cookie making company or something like that, but half the reason we won't is because we'll spend 10 years making sure the cookie is what we think people want, and by that time the idea flies past and no one cares, and you never even started it, instead of just starting. And they might be shit to start with, but you're better off getting that friction, getting that contact, getting that feedback that you're talking about, Morgan, and refining it as you go. But at least you're going, rather than staying in the gates, not even getting out of the bloody gate and thinking about you, because we're trying to anticipate what we don't even really know. It's not until we're outside of the gate, testing the waters, testing these business ideas that we have, pursuing these goals, that we can even get feedback. I think as humans, we're trying to get feedback from the concept, before we even get out there.
Yeah.
100. And you wrapped up perfectly, bro, what I was trying to say before, with just that idea of taking that first hit and then realizing like, oh shucks, actually, damn, I could take that. I could do that again. That's cool.
Yeah.
And I think like, for me, if I think back on a moment, I think this would have been a major pivotal moment for me as a young fella. But I remember I was like 9 or 10. And when Michael Jackson died, like I didn't even know who he was until his death. And then I like became a super fan. And I remember I was like 10 years old. I went up to my teacher and I was like, hey, miss, whose classes are doing assembly next? And then she was like, oh, go to room 7 or something. So I ran up to room 7 at lunchtime and I was like, oh, miss, can I do a tribute dance to Michael Jackson for you at assembly? And she was like, oh my gosh, yes, like cool. And I remember being like, I can see it so clearly, but I remember being backstage and it was crack up, bro. I got like one of my mum's shirts that was like a big wide V-neck to try and be like Michael Jackson.
We will share this on
the
and I had like, had the outfit, whatever. Me and my nana made up like a sequence glove. But yeah, so anyways, I was backstage and I was waiting to go on, and my bro Harry, he was on the CD player to chuck in the CD that had the track. And I remember like 30 seconds before going on, I was like, no, I don't want to do this anymore, to the bro Harry, to one of my mates. And I remember he just looked at me and he was like, bro, you have to, like, I'm playing it now. And then it was just sort of like, all right, okay. And just went out there, owned it. And then like the fear, the self-doubt, just within the time of a minute before going on got so intense. But I think what I may have done is just used that and channeled that into like, okay, I'm going to do a bomb performance, a mean as tribute sort of dance for him. And bro, like, I think by doing that, being like, excuse my language, but like shit scared, getting out there, stepping outside my comfort zone, and then getting what came back. I had my mom, uncles, aunties all watching, and it was just ace. But I think that was a pivotal moment for me, realizing that when I have fear over something, I actually can do it. And then once I've done it, that'll be my true answer as to how fearful I am of that. And I think I've used that mindset in quite a few things in my life, and sort of been like, what's the worst? What's the worst that's going to happen? I'll get a no.
What's the worst? Yeah.
What's the worst? I reckon that's the best tool that I use. In terms of situations when I'm feeling fear or self-doubt, I'll kind of be like, what's the worst that can happen? And it's usually like, oh, they'll say no, or like something like that. And I'm like, oh, that's not actually that bad. I'm still, alive and kicking sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as it seems. And I think having that self-awareness to see when you are in the danger zone, like what is the worst that could happen? It could be something really bad. And you're like, okay, maybe not. Let's take it a few spaces back. But I think self-awareness is a really important one there, and kind of forcing yourself to do it. Like in Jackson, since he kind of had the music playing, and we're not all going to be in those positions when we're feeling fearful.
Had mum's shirt on.
Yeah. She's like, I saw the sequin glove for you. You better get on that stage. But I think that sometimes it does take a little push, or somebody else to be like, no, you have to do it. If it's within your growth zone, do it for sure. Take that opportunity, see it as an opportunity, and be like, man, I get to do this. How cool is that? Like, this is my time to shine. And I just think it'll go so far. And even when you were talking about, your fear and self-doubt around the EB community when you first started it, like, bro, look at you now, like what an thing that's come from it. And imagine if that hadn't happened, if you had stopped yourself there. I mean, you were still doing awesome things anyway, but all the schools, that have benefited from the like instruments, all the beavers that we've all minted, or like all that cool stuff,
community created,
never would have happened. It's just like, oh, blow my mind.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think that I've learned that when we have fear, we fear things that we know we can actually do. We're just not sure how well we can do it. So for myself, right? I don't have a fear that I won't be, that I can't pole vault. Like, I genuinely know that I'm not a gymnast, right?
Yeah.
So I don't care about that, whatever, that just goes by. But things that I have an inkling that I can do, that's where I think we get scared, because we semi-know we can do it, eh?
Yeah. But we think it's just us that thinks we can do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to look at your bros or your sis or whatever and be like, Jack's mean at this, or man, Morgan's mean at that, or whatever, or or my bros have said to me, they can see a million things that they think that I can do, but often for us, man, we can't tell ourselves, but we can tell every other mate that we have and cousin. And
totally, bro. And why, like, it's buzzy to think that is kind of the norm at the moment, it's like, we were talking about this just before. Gosh, sorry, bro, I've just been blank. I was like, damn, that was just a massive mind blank. Sorry. Sorry, bro. Can you trigger me on what you were what we were saying just before? I just like.
Oh, just around how we find it so easy to pump up our friends and whānau, and
got you,
but not ourselves.
Yeah, that's right. And what I was gonna say was, I think one way that I like to look at it is like, what would you do if your little sister came up to you, or like your daughter, your son came up to you and was like, I want to do this, and you're like, nah, nope, dreaming way too. You can't do that. Like, you'd never say that, you know what I mean? So why are we gonna do that? Well, why do we do that to ourselves? And I think that talks on, self-talk and being and practicing self-talk. Like Ari Grant, she speaks to that amazingly on how important and impactful self-talk is,
and just changing certain words and stuff. She's a really language sort of person, and the smallest change in how you speak to yourself. And I've always, I don't know, I can admire people that look in the mirror and do affirmations and they're like, you're awesome, you're gonna have a great day, like rah, rah. I'm like, if you can do that and really feel something from that, that's awesome. Like, yes, do it. Myself, I would feel a bit weird doing it, but I sit in my head and I kind of think of these things, and then it is like that saying, like, talk to yourself how you treat your kids, like you're not going to be like, you're an idiot, you can't do that, like you wouldn't speak to your children like, well, I don't know, maybe somebody would really annoy you. No, but you wouldn't speak to them like that, you wouldn't speak to your friends like that. Why are you speaking to yourself like that? And I think you kind of have an obligation to yourself, and that's when self-worth comes into it. Like, that's not fair. You're doing your very best job. One side of you is going, yes, I really want to do this thing. And then imagine if you actually thought about people, like in person, somebody going, really want to do this thing, the other going, no, you can't do it, you're trash. But they're parts of you. So it's like, just be a bit nice to yourself. Like, do yourself a service, be kinder to yourself. Obviously be kind to others, but I feel like a lot of the focus is on be kind to others, which is obviously super important, but it starts with self. Like, if you're talking shit to yourself in your head and you're being nice to everyone else, that's not growth. That's growth for the other person. They'll be feeling great, but then you're left kind of at home and you're just like, oh, I've just beaten myself up all day, why am I feeling sad? Like, I wonder why you're feeling sad all day. You've just been like, you're terrible, you can't do this. Of course you're going to feel sad after that. The self-talk plays a massive part in it.
Self-talk is huge. And I'm a bit like you too, Morgan. Like, I probably wouldn't talk into the mirror and that kind of thing. But I think what works for me, or what's worked for me in my life, is just stepping forward and whatever it is, just taking the first step. Like, and like I was saying before, the more you take the first step, the easier it is to take first steps, and then you can take first steps towards bigger and further and sort of harder things. And I guess now I've got a real passion to see people overcome their fears. Like, like, I genuinely want every beaver, and not even everyone in the Eager Beaver community, just people in general, to do well. Like, how mean would that be when society is like cranking, pumping, and everyone, and maybe that's like a fluffy dream that I have that might not ever happen, but I'd rather think that way than just not think that way, and just be like, that'll never happen.
But I reckon that could happen. Like, I have faith in this idea, because I'm like, if everyone, and it's hard at the start, and like what you're saying, like small steps and stuff. Like, I'm not gonna say that after this I'm just gonna be talking to myself positive all the time. Like, I know that it's not the reality. There are gonna be times where I'm like, oh, why'd you do that, or why'd you say that, or really second guessing yourself. But that's, that's all good. At least that's one last, like one less time that you're saying something bad to yourself. If you can call yourself out on it and be like, oh, no, I'm going into this mode. And that's when those kind of pre-planned like speeches and stuff to yourself can kick in. If it's a habit that you always find yourself being really critical when you're at mahi, for example, then have that self-talk ready so that, again, it like raises that voice of possibility, and that's louder and it's pre-planned as well. So you know what you're saying to yourself, and then eventually the rest will go.
Because I guess you've pre-planned, your boss is going to say no to that pay rise. Your voice is going to say go back to bed at 6 a.m. And by prepping for that, it just gives you that extra nudge you need to be able to, because I'm a sucker for getting back. Like I'm always saying to Morgan, all right, Bob, I'm starting a new routine. Man's going to get up at 4. I'm going to meditate. And I'm like, bro.
And then it's like 8 o'clock, and I'm like, I thought you were waking up.
You're waking him up, eh?
I'm already like halfway through my workout, and I'm like,
yeah. Like, I guess for me, like that's a big one. And man, like, with the podcast, like there's been so many self-doubts that have come through, and even being real vulnerable and open, I guess, like there was self-doubt for today, and that's to me, it's a natural, normal self-doubt. It's just again, I think we've been doing Wellness Wednesdays for about 5-6 weeks, but we haven't done it like this, and there was a little element of stretching the comfort zone, having us recording in the background whilst having it. Actually, this is the first ever like live podcast we've done.
Oh yeah, welcome to the first ever live podcast.
Yeah,
those elements all play into it, and it's kind of like, oh shucks, and I was even having Morgan saying to me, and no, it'll be cool, and I'm like, hard. We're gonna smash it. We're gonna nail it. And we're saying that, the last 10 minutes before, because it creeps in a lot beforehand. And I don't know if you've had experience, bro, because I could only imagine like when Sons of Zion went from performing to 2,000 people to being backstage at like One Love, or like backstage, there's 30,000 people out the other side waiting. Did you, during that process, bro, of when it first got big on the scale, in the sense that, you had 30,000 people, 40,000 people watching you, were there things that you did or the crew, the band did to help mitigate that fear?
Yeah, I think, bro, what one thing that's worked for us as a band kind of like the whole time is that we've and I don't know if this is good advice, you can tell me if it's not or whatever, but we've really tried to, I feel like if you lower the expectation on yourself, and what you're talking about, Morgan, be kind to yourself, and I've always been a believer in this saying that says, today's news is tomorrow's fish and chip paper. And it's so true, right? Like we've had rubbish performances, and the next day on Instagram, it was like, oh, I don't know, the guitar string snapped, or the sound wasn't that very good, or whatever. But then the world moves on, and then you just do another festival and everyone forgot. So if you,
they'll remember the good ones, like they'll be like, I went to this Mayonnaise concert, and then that's the part they'll remember. They're not going to remember the rest of it. Like if there were more acts on that night, they're probably going to forget about your bad audio and think about like the main act that they saw next, or something like that. And that's all good. Like that's fine.
Exactly, and that age-old thing about what's outside of your circle of control. Like ultimately, all we can do is go out there, sing our tunes, and hope that 30,000 people clap and vibe. But if they don't, then they didn't. What can you do about that? You can spend, you can try and think that through and change that in your mind till the cows come home. But ultimately, it's outside of your control. They either like it or they don't. And I think, the faster you can arrive at not expecting so much in terms of the result when you go to do things, just start, man. Honestly, just start.
Thinking like 30,000 people, at least one of them is going to be clapping, like it's not like they're all going to actually sit there and like throw like tomatoes at you, like they may be like to their mate like, oh, all good, keep going, like it'll be like a momentary thing. Worst that could happen is somebody doesn't like it, write an article going like, oh, that was true. All good. Scroll on.
It's what you guys were talking about before. It's literally, what's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen was that was a short performance. And that's it.
What's the best that could happen, like
The best,
on the flip side of it, what's the best thing that could happen? Everyone could love it, or I could get that new job if I really push myself, or, I can take these new opportunities. And I'm sure that best will outweigh that tiny little, oh, they could say no,
Yeah.
Not worth it. Go for the big guns. Because I'm the same as you. I really want people to succeed. If I could like personally mentor everyone and just focus on what they want to do and just get them there, happy days sort of thing. But yeah, we need to do it for ourselves as well, because man, we could be so critical, especially in terms of podcasts, especially in terms of comparisons as well. Like we see other people do beautiful podcasts and we're like, why aren't we there? And we've been doing it for like 2 weeks, and then we're like, oh, maybe we've been doing this for 2 weeks. Like, let's cut ourselves a bit of slack here. Yeah, awesome.
And I was clicking onto sort of a theme in that kōrero, and I think an element something that you did, Rio, like with performing to major crowds, was, I guess, surrendering to not having control of a situation, right? And I think if we can all maybe practice that too. I mean, I've certainly tried to practice that. We might, there could be, I forgot something for my sister or whatever, and it got her in trouble at school, and I could, freak out or whatever. But it's like, hey, it's out of my control that was a really bad example, but it's out of my control of whether or not you get the detention or whatever. But you kind of get what I'm saying. And I think if we can practice, practice telling ourselves that, we aren't in control of everything. And that, I think, is a good thing in some situations. And when we can grasp the idea that, life's not happening, what is the saying? Life's not happening to us, it's happening for us, right? And I think the same whakaaro of surrendering to the process speaks to that, and surrendering to the possibilities, because I mean, we definitely had an element of that with the podcast. We surrendered to it, and look where we're up to now. I guess you guys as a band, you surrendered to the fears, surrendered to the judgments, the noise, the negative side that can be. And now look at you fellas, cracking it. You know what I mean? And
do you know what we do have? Sorry, do you know what we do have control over though? Like we can't have control over everything, but we do have control over our minds and our thoughts. Our thoughts are our own. You can change them whenever you want to. Some are going to be harder to change than others. Some you're going to switch. And the more you get into a routine of it, the more you create that as a habit, your mind's not going to go straight to the bad place and the self-doubt every time. It's going to start going to the more like positive space, but it's going to take practice. It's going to take time. It's going to take people supporting you as well. And there's nothing worse than, and I've been in this situation where I felt really all that self-doubt and stuff about podcasts. And then it kind of gets reiterated from another person, those doubts. And they're like, it could be something as little as, like there was no content, like little clips of me because I'm not saying anything insightful, nothing I say is really, and that those sort of doubts come in. And then you notice, say you go on somebody else's podcast and they don't make any like little clips of you, and you're like, was nothing I said there clip worthy? And then you're like, oh, so they must be right, I'm not worth it. But then you push past it and then you get that clip content and you're like, oh, actually, no, that wasn't just because I was terrible at it or anything like that. It was just, there were parts of the podcast to put in. And that's cool. It doesn't need to be like a comparison thing. It doesn't need to be like, why does everyone love Jack more than they love me or anything like that? Because it's just, we're all different. People like different things and people are going to post different things, and that's okay to buy it. It's all good.
That's right. And I think the more we look for, like once we feed that thing, then we almost become obsessed with it. And I'm not sure if this was the case for you, but then from then on, you're probably looking for clips.
Yeah. 100%. And then when Jack couldn't find them, I'm like, I'm going to try say stuff at a really like deep tone and an intentional tone with like lots of pauses so that it like gets a lot of impact, even though what I'm saying isn't really that insightful, but since the tone I'm saying it is going to make it a clip. And it's just like, that's not natural. Like that wasn't. So the next time after I had a little like kind of suck about it, next time I went into a podcast was just my authentic self, was like, cool, rah, rah. And then they ended up doing really great video. And I was like, oh, that instilled my confidence again. And I know if the next one, so we went on another one and they didn't post any clip content, I wouldn't be fazed by it. Now that I know myself, I'm like, nah, you've got this, just do what you want to do. You know, you don't need to have fears in it, because what is the worst thing that can happen? What, they don't post a clip content of you? I'm sure I'm going to survive. I'll be okay.
Yeah, I had a similar thing actually. I don't know if you remember, like that was probably about five years ago when the festival started making like an after movie of the festival.
Yeah.
You know, and then like I remember thinking the same thing, because for a few festivals it would just show us only for like 2 seconds, and then it would be, you know, all the other acts, and I was like, fuck, we must have been dumb, or you know, like we can't. Yeah, you know, and then yeah, but then, like I was saying to you, like I almost started like looking at all the after videos of all the festivals and being like, fuck, yeah, they're all not using us, like, you know, like, and then but like you say, you move past it, and then there's times when we're chewing up most of the minutes on heaps of them, like, you know, like it's about, I guess, not taking it personal, you know, and not thinking that the guy who's editing it there is like, oh, I'm gonna make Rio feel shit, and not, you know, like,
yeah,
like that's such a,
got it this time.
yeah, like, but like when you zoom out and think of it that way, it's like, it's such an absurd thing to think that someone's taken the time to make you feel, you know,
they're like, whatever I do, I'm not putting Morgan in like in a clip, sort of thing.
Well, I'm not gonna,
and you went to them and you're like, hey, did you purposely not put me in a clip content because you thought what I was saying was like shit? And they'd probably be like, oh no, I just thought this was a really good one of Jack. And then I go, oh, same thing, you know, like, then move past it.
Yeah, exactly right. I just think we put so much expectation on ourselves, and yeah, like I was saying before, I feel like we try and think way too far ahead, like way down. We're trying to anticipate all the mistakes. We're trying to look for all the potholes and down this road that we haven't even walked down yet.
Yeah.
And
I think
we're trying to
that is hypothetical things. You were like, what if this happened, and then you kind of have to bring yourself back and be like, wait, that hasn't happened. The possibility of that's probably not even going to happen. Why are we freaking out about something that is just an idea? You know, like that could be the same as getting excited about something that's just an idea, or celebrating something that you haven't even done yet. You know, it's just it's a bit of change of thought. But and just before we wrap up and stuff as well, I don't know if you feel this, Ria. I'm not saying you're old in any way, by the way, because
I am. No.
Wait for the end of my sentence. I don't want to make these close as the computer. I was just thinking, and like particularly with social media or TikTok or something like that, fear and self-doubt as you get older, because I'm 28 and I see all these people on social media doing, you know, podcasts or doing TikToks and stuff, and they're all really young, and I'm like, that self-doubt comes in for me, and I'm like, am I like mutton dresses lamb? Like, am I trying to fit into something that's like I'm a little bit past, you know, and that fear of people judging and going, oh, she's too old, like rah, or anything like that as well. I think age can come into it. And I see it a lot with adults as well. And it's actually the one thing that young people really have under wraps, you know, like they do kind of build that self-confidence within themselves, and they have all their friends there, they're at school, so they're all super supportive, and they're willing to take risks because you're allowed to when you're young, you know, like that's kind of like a common thing to start things when you're young and then build it from there. But like in terms of adults going into businesses and adults trying new things, and the older you get, I don't think there's an age limit, eh? Like I'm like, bro, if you're like 89 and you want to start a project, do it. Like, of course you should. And don't worry about that fear of what people are going to think, because, hey, you've got like one life to live. Sorry, my son's crying. I'm just going to pop in and see.
That's all good. Yeah, I think I think, bro, it's I think it's actually empowering for your local community, for your local town, for your city, and for the country and for the world, bro. When you step out and step beyond fear, you know, I truly believe though, bro, that genuinely people are cheering for people.
Yeah.
You know, I think there are haters and there are people that hope people fall over and that kind of thing. But I think generally we're cheering for each other, you know?
Yeah. And I think the negativity or the negative comments or negative aspects to some engagement, I think now it's starting to get washed out quicker you know, it's getting diluted a lot quicker. And I think there are people, I mean, even for example, the TikToks, you know, like, yep, there was some pretty ratchet comments, but also there was probably more, you know, 50 to 75% more actually positive ones. But for some reason, those negative ones, they're the ones that stick, which is so strange.
Yeah,
you know, they stick.
that's right, bro.
But I think as a community online, we're getting better. I mean, for me, bro, I never even had thought that a social media platform like Discord could create the connection of and sense of community and sense of belonging that this Discord has created, bro. Because prior to that, I did think it was a little bit sort of, you know, you're living in la la land if you think you can genuinely have connection and even feel love through the computer. And I think the EB Discord has totally given me a sense of belonging. It's made me feel as though I'm a part of something. It's made, you know, I've definitely felt the love through Wellness Wednesday voice chats. I felt the love through just the general chit chat. Like, I never thought that, you know, we were going to be able to create that. And so I guess what I'm saying is, like, when I'm saying that I think more of the negative stuff is being washed out, I think even this community in itself is part of that movement that is slowly, whether it's conscious or unconscious, washing that negativity away. And it's sort of becoming more normal. And even young people, bro, from a youth worker's point of view, like young people, I've noticed a switch in them. You know, they're not like, even when I'm 22, I was at high school only 6 years ago. And even then, bro, like, if there was, like, say, for example, like a photo going around the school of somebody, it was like way nastier back then. Like it was nasty, and people were mean, and they were like actually mean, and they did not care. But one thing I'm noticing now is maybe it's people are being more aware of who they are and a sense of self and being more aware of others. But I've noticed as a youth worker, people are standing up way more to things like that and going, nah, that's not right.
Yeah.
Like, this is wrong.
Yeah.
What are you doing? But
100, bro.
Back in the day,
100.
6 years ago, it was cool to be like, oh, look at this. Like, look what photo of the bro, or like, oh, look at this, whatever it is, you know, like, and people were just nasty.
Yeah, and I think we've set some good barriers and boundaries too, bro, and especially around acceptance and having diversity within, you know, our community and within the world. And, you know, I remember a time where it was, you know, like frowned upon to be anything different, you know, or to be different in terms of your sexuality or and all those kinds of things. And I think we're just way more accepting now, and I think it's a beautiful thing, bro. And I think it's a good thing. I think that it's necessary. And I think that helps break down those barriers of fear as well, you know. But yeah, what I was talking about before of people of genuinely believing that people want us to do well, and that where was I going to go with that? Sorry, bro, I just had a mind blank. Like you did.
You pull it together.
Yeah, it was a banger too. It was a banger, Whānau.
It was to do with gassing each other up. Oh my gosh, I've done it to myself, bro. I've blanked.
Everyone in the community is probably yelling at their screens right now, going, "It's this."
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was like as a sort of population or community, we're sort of cheering for one another a bit more now.
Because there's boundaries in place.
We're cheering for one another. Yeah. That is definitely it. And what I was going to say on that, bro, is how you were talking about that you didn't think it was possible. And I was exactly the same too, bro, that you could feel connection and love and that kind of thing through a computer or through a phone, you know, like genuine connection. And I genuinely feel a connection to you guys, you know, and I haven't actually physically met you. I just think that we have awesome, interesting, challenging, thought-provoking conversations, and I love it. And one thing that I want to share with you guys and with whoever's listening in the AMA as well is that a young lady messaged me probably about 3 weeks ago, and she has been considering not being on the earth anymore for for a long while, she said in her message. And she said that the reason that she's been able to keep going for the last month or so is because when she jumps into our Discord and says good morning, at least 2 people say good morning back. And for her, that's 2 people that she never had to, to care, to respond. And so...
Bro, you make me cry.
Yeah. And obviously I don't want to share who it is, but like for me, I'm just like, far out. Imagine if I succumb to fear, if I succumb to self-doubt, and myself and the other boys didn't start Eager Beaver. Like, one, if nothing else, this young lady's stayed alive, for longer, according to her, because of what we're doing.
Wow.
And for me,
real.
Yeah. How beautiful is that? Like that.
How awesome
that you're able to, everyone in this community is able to provide that space, and you wouldn't have known that, so you don't know the impacts that you have on people unless they tell you that. So just imagine how many people you may have impacted a whole lot more, and I'm sure like the Eager Beaver community has, and that's just full props. Like, I couldn't be prouder of the community right now after hearing like that's amazing.
When I read that, I remember thinking, because I've had challenging times in my life, where I've been down, like really, really down in the dumps, and it really does feel like no one cares, or like no one's listening, and or whatever. And so I could really, really empathize just with those couple of Morena Queen, have an awesome day, or whatever, however people respond to her. That's enough to just put the feet on the ground, go have a shower and get ready. And tackle another day. And that's huge. And I guess where I was going with that is amazing things can come, like you said, Morgan, like fear and self-doubt are those barriers that stand between us and success. And so this is one of the beautiful things that was just on the other side of the fence of me doubting whether or not Eager Beaver was worth pursuing. Now we're there, and we've saved a life, and that's
fucking unreal, bro. Like, that's
and that wasn't an intention, I guess, at all of the project. It was about the music and building a Discord community and blah blah blah. But I guess these are byproducts of overcoming fear and doing things in a way where the intention is pure and out of love and out of community. Like, it's obviously filtered down into the community where people are feeling loved or accepted or heard. These are very, very important things that I think often we don't feel out there in society. We don't feel heard. We don't feel valued. I know when I was over in London and that, like, even to get a good morning was like, you don't get one.
Gotta work hard for that.
People are just, tunnel vision.
I guess that's because that's one thing I love about visiting small towns, bro, in Aotearoa, is that I can actually walk down the street to the bakery and be like, Morena, and then that lady, man, kid will be like, yo, or hi, and it's just met with a big smile. But then you go to Auckland CBD, bro, down to the ferry terminal, like we were at this morning, and you say hello to somebody, they'll go, what? What do you want?
Do you know who we need to give a shout out to is Taupua. Everyone there, I've never been in a friendlier city than Taupua. Honestly, we were walking through and everyone was like saying hi, and we were kind of like, whoa, we're in this dream land. This is incredible. So shout out to anyone that's in Taupua. You guys are super friendly and people appreciate it. It makes someone's day. That could, you never know, that one smile could end up saving someone's life. That's could be all they needed that day. And I just think that's incredible, and I fully get the power of the Discord as well, because like even when I was having self-doubts and stuff about podcasting and being in this sort of space, and then being on Wellness Wednesday, and I'd still feel real nervous, and then I'd have people kind of put up in the chat and just be like, awesome, Morgan, and I was like, like scrolling through it, reading it, being like, wow, this is incredible. And this is stuff that like I want to take a photo of that sort of stuff, so that when I'm in those sort of down times and I'm doubting myself, I have something to reflect on and be like, actually, no, there are people out there that believe in you and really want to hear what you have to say. So like, do it for them, do it for yourself. Like, just do it. Take that chance, see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Just don't let that stop you from trying again. I think that's, if you really want it, work towards it, get past those barriers. That's and right. World's your oyster.
And it feels good, right? Like it feels nice to be acknowledged and complimented on something, you know, that you take the time to do. And, you know, like even when we dropped the instruments off at the schools, like it was not that we did it for any kind of props or whatever, but like, I'm not going to say that it didn't feel great and I wasn't proud of our community, you know, and the principals were like, thank you fellas so much. Like, you know, we could never have. And yeah, you're right, Morgan. I think holding on to those moments and realizing that, you know, we are making change. You guys are making change with your podcast, you know, user saving lives, user inspiring people, and user bringing more positive energy into the world. And I just encourage everyone out there to try and get to the other side of that fear, try and get over that barrier, you know, try and spend time with people who are good at getting over that barrier.
Yeah.
And once you get that feeling, you know, that feeling inside when you've done something for somebody else and you've made them happy or you've provided something for them, you're going to want that feeling again. And not, you know, it's only going to be good stuff. You're just going to keep doing good things to other people, do good things for yourself, and you're going to get like addicted to that feeling. And man, you are allowed to get addicted to that, you know. Everyone says addictions are bad. I'm like, that one you're allowed to get addicted to because that's helping everyone. It's not just for yourself.
And I think that also taps into law of attraction, right? You know, because if you believe in it, but I firmly believe in it. And like, I used to do these things, bro. Like every morning on my personal, I used to do a positivity post. And one thing that I noticed over time, when I do them, there might be a day where I wouldn't. And I started to realize I actually had a worse day in general when I didn't do it. And I truly believe, if it sounds too woo-woo-wah-wah, whatever, but I do truly believe that by me doing those positivity posts in the morning, attracted some sort of energy to whether it was from someone else or whether it was just actually from, it felt like a download kind of thing of just positive energy. I definitely noticed a shift when I was doing something, and then next minute there was a message and it was like, oh, hey bro, I needed to see this today, like thank you. And it's like, fuck, that's was the best like feeling. That makes your cup so full that, like the brother Raniera says, give with your overflow. It'll fill you up so much that you'll be overflowing with water. Give that to everyone else. And that's what I would give in the next morning's you know, post. And I'll try to say something quite cool or not quite cool, sorry, but like inspirational. but yeah, it definitely, I think, spoke to the law of attraction. And I think when you do start doing good things for people, no matter how big or small, you will get a return. Like the universe, God, or however you want to believe it, you know, it's not going to ignore that. Just like
totally,
it's not
bro,
being a dickhead.
Yeah. And you know, and you're so right, bro. We don't have to you know, we don't have to do out of this world stuff all the time. Like one thing that I've found that really makes people feel heard and acknowledged is I really, really make an effort to remember people's names when I walk into a room. Because I've found, bro, like if I met you and you're like, oh, kia ora, bro, Jack. And then I was like, oh, kia ora, Rio. And then we sort of went away from each other for whatever. And then I came back 15 minutes later and I was like, well, what do you do for work, Jack? And like actually said your name, not bro.
Yeah.
I feel like, oh shit, this guy's actually heard, acknowledged, and bothered to retain my name. Yeah, it's like the smallest thing, but I always remembered when people remembered my name, and it's just a little effort, It's a little more effort.
Because we even noticed that, like even when we're on the Up2 account and Jack's like chatting with you, and then it actually makes me feel nice when you're like, oh, and you know, you'll add my name in there, even though you're just talking to Jack, you'll be like, I hope you and Morgan are well, and that little Morgan just means so much to me because I feel acknowledged, and I'm like, oh, you know, saying hi to me as well, like that's so awesome. And it's just a tiny little, you know, like it's a 6. Wait, yeah. But you know, it's a 6-letter word. It takes a second to type, but the difference it makes and just that connection and feeling like valued and welcomed is just tenfold. It's amazing.
That's really, really cool. And I think I don't know, it's just a nice thing to do. Like, it's not really hard to do. I don't actually know, now that I think back to when I didn't bother to remember people's names, I was like, why don't you try it like harder? Like, just remember their name, it's not hard.
Write it on your hand if you have to, but like, do it.
Yeah, it's like it's a tiny thing that yields massive results in terms of that person feeling valued and acknowledged and heard.
I think it's exactly like just saying hello on the street in the morning, lunchtime, nighttime, whatever time, just being like, oh, yo, or like, hey, hope you have a good day. It's out of it.
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, what?
We had that at a cafe
cool.
recently,
Yeah.
We had that at a cafe when the waiter came in and put down like the coffee, and we were like, oh, thanks so much at Rara. And he was so shocked that people, what did he say?
Oh, he was like, oh, thank you. At least some people with manners.
Yeah, we were like, oh,
hey, what?
Do people not say thank you? Like, it was just, I found it really mind blowing. Yeah. And then Jack, who's worked in hospital before, was like, yeah, some people just don't, just kind of ignore you. And I'm like, oh, if you're rude to waiters, honestly, jump off the Discord now. I don't want to see you. Don't be rude to waiters. It's like the number one rule.
Yeah.
No.
But well, that's what they say. Like how you treat a waiter is a reflection of who you are.
Yeah.
Someone who doesn't, in inverted commas, doesn't matter to you. How you treat those people is really a reflection of the kind of person you are.
Yeah, totally.
And I think if those people, if that person doesn't matter to you, then you probably don't matter that much to yourself, or your value in yourself, your sense of worth is probably not that much as well. Hard.
And so to wrap us up, I'd really be keen to hear what your guys' thoughts are as like a whole. Like, if you had to take, I know that we've spoken so much and given heaps of different things, but I know that the gems at the end, when you kind of seal it all in one, are usually what people can really remember, relate to and take on with them. So I'm really keen to know what your guys' thoughts are on like a bit of advice that you can give the Eager Beaver community, anyone else that's going to watch this as well. Hopefully more people will, because I just think this was such an awesome conversation. It was a really good one to have. Who wants to kick us off? I'll let you two battle it out.
Oh, so it's a 1v1, bro? Nah.
I'll go after you, Jake.
Okay, it's fine, bro. Cool. So I think for me, the biggest thing that I'd suggest, and something that I'm currently in the process of doing, is dropping the ego, learning to detach from that from time to time. But I think what that speaks to most is a real strong sense of self. And I'm currently, on a bit of a journey with that too, of really uncovering who I am. And I think I'm doing a good job. But I think once we can do that, we can drop the ego, surrender to the process, and just consciously work on ourselves inwards, getting to know ourselves. I think that's just going to benefit us, like in so many different categories of what success means to you. But yeah, I reckon that would be the way that I'd wrap that up.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Top that, Rick.
Far out. Give me 5 minutes and I'll just in terms of fear and self-doubt, I'd say get around people who can get around fear. That would be my advice. Spend time with people who are just like, yep, that's hard, but I'm still gonna do it. Like, those kinds of people. They're just like, who cares? Let's just try it.
Yes, I love those kinds of people.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm that kind of my appetite for risk is really, really high. So I'll try anything, like literally next to anything. And it doesn't always work out. But yeah, that would be my advice to people. Get around people who aren't scared. But I guess the other side of that too is get around people who aren't scared, but are calculated as well. Like, not reckless, silly people who just, do things that are like, nah, that's never going to work. Just, you know what I mean? Those fearless, but switched on, calculated, can assess the situation, but don't start with no, and don't start with the reasons why something can't be done.
Yes.
Get around those people.
That's all.
That was good. Man, now I have to follow it. You two are far too high. No self-doubt here. No, my advice is to get into that growth zone, see how it feels, really see how it feels, feel how it feels, how great it is to feel that accomplishment once you've done it, and just continue that pattern. Stop letting fear rule your life. Face those fears head on, do the best that you can do, and just be nice to yourselves. Be, so nice to yourselves all the time. You should be your biggest supporter. So you've got to get that cheerleader in your head going, yes, you can get it, and just remind yourself in times of fear and self-doubt, it's all good. It'll probably pass. But feel that feeling and then move on from the to just benefit yourself.
Love that.
That was on.
I can't.
Can I have another turn?
Nah.
Yeah, it's just a whole podcast of us doing it.
I would have clips to say.
Watch out for next.
Yeah. That was on fun. I really enjoyed that chat, and just thank you guys for jumping on again and facilitating it. And I look forward to more yarns and more guests and people who have done other things outside of all of our scope. Different kind of businesses, and I just can't wait.
It's gonna be awesome, bro. It's gonna be awesome. And again, thank you. And also just want to express gratitude to you and the team, bro, for allowing us and opening up the space for us. It's just changed. It honestly has changed our lives too. Just massive mihi, bro. Super excited. And whānau, for if you haven't seen it yet, we'll be doing these every 2 weeks. So next Wednesday there won't be one, but the Wednesday after that we'll have another one. And then in the interim of that sort of process, we'll release some little clips, and then I'll try my best to get this all edited up nice and fast and mint, and then we can chuck it up on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, all that sort of stuff. So but massive you, bro, massive mihi to the team. Thank you very much. Massive mihi to the audience, everyone listening in. Thank you. And we can't wait for next time. So
have a great sleep deep. Massive mihi to you too. Thank you.
Cool whānau, that's us. Sure.
So whānau
as week. We'll catch you on the Discord.
You.
Let's go.
Let's go.